So I wanted to do something a little bit different with this review. Before the year ended, I did want to take a look, me personally, at the SH Figuarts One Piece Zoro raid on Onigashima version. Now, a lot of you are very familiar with just how rough this figure is, and rough is an understatement, man. This has to be one of the biggest ball drops that Tamashii Nations has ever put out in recent years, at least. This is so crazy just how disappointed so many people were with this particular figure. I canceled my pre-orders quick when people were showing off just how rough this was back in like September. And I don't really regret it. This one here is from Amazon, and I'm telling you guys right now, this is a pre-recorded section with the packaging, 360 here. It's so rough that I am returning this to Amazon. I have no shame in that. It's that bad of a figure. I don't return stuff often. But I did just want to talk quick about how the figure is done, the different parts of the figure, a lot of different things about it, and go quick because a lot of you know what's going on with it right now. And then a decent amount of this video is really dedicated to just how messy the quality was for Tamashii Nations in 2023. Because if it goes even worse into 2024, I don't see myself supporting really in many of these lines any further, no matter how much I like these properties. You have been looking at the packaging for a while in the 360 view. I will admit the packaging for these figures is really sick. Here is the figure out of the packaging, and I'm telling you guys right now, yeah, it's rough. It's, yeah, gosh, I just don't understand just how bad of a ball drop it is. But hey, we're getting East Blue figures, so hopefully when we get an East Blue Zoro, that's going to be much better than this. Let's take a look at the accessories, and I'll try to get through that really quick, because I don't want to be here all day. Then we'll take a close look at the figure. So what's interesting is Tamashii Nations actually included a paper manual for this figure. They really haven't been doing that lately. They've been doing mostly paperless, and then there's like a barcode on the inside of the packaging where you scan it, and it takes you to Tamashii Nations' website where you can look at the manual, so that's pretty cool. I guess there's a lot going on with this particular figure where they decided to give him a paper manual, and I'm fine with that. I wanted to talk about the accessories really quick. I'm not going to go into too much depth about some of these things, just going to be completely honest, and a lot of people have done it by now to where it's kind of pointless for me to do it. So, we do have the more relaxed hands. We have the sword-holding hands. All of those hands look pretty nice. There's really not much else that he probably could have come with hands-wise. We do have an alternate left bicep right there. We also have the different faces. We have the shock comedic face. We also have the grinning face right there, as well as an angry or screaming face, and the alternate head with the bandana meant for the three-sword style. I have no problems with any of these faces or the alternate head. All of the paint there is really nice. I do wish that there was some kind of alternate face you could have done for the bandana head. Unfortunately, they don't have anything for that. I do want to talk about the swords. They are really nicely done. They have a lot of great paint and sculpt work going on. Really nice gold on each of these swords. The metallic silver and like gray going on the blades as well is really cool. You have this purple handle one that has like a tealish finish to the blade there. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm still pretty early into One Piece. I should have these names memorized of the swords, but I don't, and I'm nowhere near this arc as well. You also have this one here where it's like just a darker type of handle. You can't tell what all colors is going on in there. But you have more of a rounded type of guard going on there, as well as the blade has a little bit of like a darkish blue and purple going on. That's really cool. And then you have the white sword here, which of course is meant for his three-sword style. It does have a groove on each side in the handle. It's not too noticeable, but if you look at the bandana head here, there is a groove in the teeth, so that way all that locks in place. They probably didn't really need to do that, honestly. It fits in, the sword fits in the mouth pretty easily, if you ask me, without that groove. And it just kind of looks like he has weird buck teeth, unfortunately. When you look down, in some angles you can't tell, but like the images I have here, it is pretty noticeable. You're not going to tell, of course, when he has the sword in his mouth, so I guess it really doesn't matter too much. I do think that the holster system could have been done actually way worse. It's not too bad like I thought it was going to be. You do have to pop off each handle, though, for these pieces here. And I will say, for the, sheathed handles for this accessory. The guards do like to pop off, so be careful with that. But if you look on the more purple sheath there, we do have a groove in there. And on the opposite side, we have a peg sticking out, if you see on the white sheath right there. Now, there is a section on the hips that allows for you, basically you have to take all of the handles, all the handles out, slip it from the bottom of the sash to the top, and then the white sheath sticks to the hip, if I can speak, and then the purple one sticks outside. And it kind of works. It does stay in place, but it's mainly because the plastic is so tight on the red sash that it's kind of keeping it in place. If it was loose, I don't think that this system would be fitting in super well. But once you do get it in there, though, honestly, he doesn't look too bad with all that sheathed. Once again, I mentioned the bandana head, but we do have accessories to where you can, give him the 3-sword style. So that is rather sick to do in different posing if he had better articulation. We'll talk about that in a sec. I did want to also go over, just give you a really quick look at the screaming face while he does the, just two-handed style as well. And then we have the more cocky looking expression with just the one sword there. And as you can see, you can kind of tell if you look hard enough that there is a groove right underneath his fingers for that sword, but it's really not too bad. Last but certainly not least, we do have a faceplate actually for Luffy here. So, to go with Zoro's shocked expression, we have one for Luffy as well. I do think it's actually done pretty nice here. I think that the face might be sitting down a little too low, but it's not too bad. And honestly, when it comes to these more retail releases where you can get them from multiple retailers, I don't mind when they do the action figure DLC for, a really cheap character like Luffy. I also forgot to mention this particular image does have the alternate bicep on there, so you can see just how that looks. One thing that is also not that much of a surprise to anyone is that this figure actually looks pretty good. There have been a couple of Tamashii Nations releases this year where the quality of the plastic and the finish on some of these figures make them look really glossy and pale and grayish to where they almost look like bootlegs. And these are official Tamashii Nations products, like I said. This here looks really great. The colors on this is really great. I think that the way that his skin tone is done is very clean, very nice, vibrant colors where there is some. Of course, the green hair, all that comes through really nice. I do think paint shading would have been nice there. This particular stern faceplate is really good with the scar on his eye. And we do have the one eye there, the color in the mouth there. And then the earrings, or just that one earring, that looks really good too. Skin tone, again, is very consistent. We have the scar going all the way down his chest. There is actually a sculpt. The actual line is sculpted in there. And that is really clean, how all that is done. Now, it does break up because of the torso articulation going on there. But still, all that's really nice. Nice muscles going on. You can see that in the neck, too. And the chest as well. And then, I don't know what these are. These little, button pieces, I guess, would be for, tightening up his outfit. All of these are painted nicely. I think a tiny bit of splotching in some areas. And it's mostly just going to be, we have a matte black here, a little bit of glossy black in the arms there. I feel like it could be the light doing this. I thought there was a tiny bit of blue shading. I'm pretty sure that's the light. So, I guess they did it in a way to where, light hits it and it could be colorful, or it's just cope on my, on my part. I do think, does this rotate at all? I don't know, but this is softer plastic. It might actually rotate a little. I can't confirm if this piece rotates. But this is that pops off really easy, so we'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to praise the figure a little bit, and then the rest is going to be a roast. The armband here is a very, 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 very dark green. It's definitely not pure black. But the paint on there is really nice. The wrinkles all throughout the outfit are really cool, too. Seam line going on the back, the wrinkles on there as well. You have this swaying sash piece. The forearms, all that's done done really well. And then you do have the fist right there, the other fist right there. A little bit of green coming out there from his, I guess his waistband, or his pants. It's not his pants, they're black. And then you do, we know how bad this is going to be. But I do think that it does have some pretty nice sculpt work in the wrinkles. And also, the red also has some really great wrinkles, too. You see the port pieces I was talking about earlier. And then, again, this does move around. This does pop off if you need it to. It pops back on if I can do it here. Yeah, alright, so I'll just leave that there for now. And it's really hard to separate this whole thing, but I mean, it's just very standard, like black pants. A little bit of wrinkles, especially around the boots. The glossy, like dark gray boots actually look pretty good. The glossy finish in the plastic is really well done. I like how the soles of the feet look too. There's not much treading, of course, but like all that looks pretty good if you ask me. So, digging that. The problems with the figure, you guys are fully aware. So this arm, that pops off a lot. I've only had to do, the alternate bicep once, but this just doesn't want to port back in. And the thing is that there's nothing secure about this figure. This pops off really easily. Moving the arms up. Look at this. This whole thing is popping out. I have no idea what is going on here. You see that? It's probably because it's probably because of this. So I guess that's kind of a no-brainer. Yeah, but things just aren't secure. And then if you want to pop this up, it pops out really easily. Excuse me. But then, like, you can't really pop it. There's no pop to make it secure when you do it again, like going in there. Every time you want to... There's a swordsman who can't raise his arms to do sword strikes. And his arms pop out all the time. Not only that, but with very little effort, this pops off too. All this comes undone. You can undo all this, and then you could replace it with, you can replace it with soft goods if you want to. These crotch pieces apparently, look at this. Like, you can't move forward. I guess I'll just talk about articulation in this exact same section, which I guess I'll get to in a sec. The legs can't move forward. It's not like it could with the skirt pieces anyway, because, man. And then, like, it's just such a messy, messy figure, putting the waistband back on. And some of you may be thinking, I think a lot of you would agree that this is a messy figure, but some people out there are like, well, at least it's not completely broken. Some people have completely broken theirs in some areas, mostly the crotch area. Some people, like, their T-joints completely break in some areas that I've seen online. I don't have that problem yet, but, like, it's just such poor quality that this pops off all the time when you do very minimal things, and it's so disappointing just how it's done. It's really bad engineering, and Tamashii Nations tried to cover it up, because I think it was like Tamashii Nations Hong Kong or Singapore, one of those different accounts that showed just how rough this figure was. Excuse me. Tamashii Nations official account made a video going over, oh, it's not that bad, and I was like, I don't believe it. I really don't believe it. So yeah, kind of. One thing that's kind of a weird nitpick is that this whole chest piece is supposed to be one piece. Not a pun. But, like, there's a groove sculpted here. Excuse me, my throat's dry. But, like, the way that it's just like it's a softer plastic piece, of course. It can be a little rough. I mean, you're not going to get a great range of motion. But I think the idea is you can make it bend a little bit, and this will flex. And then this groove allows for that. But it just doesn't really move at all. And it doesn't allow for really any articulation. So that's really rough. I need to get some water. So we are going to do the articulation separate. The head is fine. It's on a dumbbell joint. It goes all the way around. Swivels. Face plates pop on and off actually really nicely. When you go down all the way, though, yeah, that head pops off a little too easily. And the faces do want to pop off a little too much. We also have articulation going into the neck. So you do actually get a decent range. What the okay. Never mind. So the arms, you can, okay. So, did you see how I kind of bent in a little bit? You can kind of get that out. Yeah, that won't stick around for very long. We have a ball joint going on in there. I'm just gonna show you some of these things. Just, you guys are familiar with how this stuff works, and he only gets kind of a 90-degree angle bend. You can make it go a little bit actually. Standard wrist articulation. Waist is going to be bad. I mean, you really only get articulation here at the actual hips. No ab articulation is really going to help with that. No swiveling there. It's all going to be here. And again, we all know that yeah. I'm not doing anything that's not normal. Like, seriously. If you were to pop this back on, which looks weird, even then, these things really want to get in the way. And these are like, these are very hard plastic too. Like, I thought these were soft plastic, very tough plastic. You get better back than forward. How is that possible? Without the skirt piece on, you get perfect splits. You're not going to get any leg movement besides a little bit of thigh rotation, and, boot with the skirt pieces on. Single joint knee actually doesn't bend too bad. Boot rotation here. The down is actually not too bad. The up could be better. Ankle rocker is actually implemented into this. So that's actually kind of cool how they did that. And then a toe hinge. But man, that sucks. My right shoulder is stuck somehow, so it's going to look a little weird. We're looking at about 16 centimeters for the height, which is going to put this at about 6¼ inches tall. He is going to be taller than Luffy, of course, and he's actually going to be a little bit shorter, but getting pretty close to scale with a Marvel Legends figure. To no one's surprise, this is a very bad figure, and yeah, it's got to be one of the worst figures, at least I've collected this year, and actually I'm going to return it. So, yeah. I do want to say that this figure looks fantastic. Everything about the paint and sculpt work, a lot of the details on here are really great with this particular figure. The colors on here are great, and I didn't go over the accessories too much, but I don't have any paint splotches from what I can tell on my figure or the accessories, which is kind of rare. Not that I get them all the time with Tamashii Nations, but there's like a little bit of a speck here and there on some of these figures. I don't really see anything wrong with the quality of paint and sculpt on this figure, which is kind of impressive. That is where my positives end, though, unfortunately. The arms barely move. A lot of this figure barely moves, and he is like one of the greatest swordsmen of all time. And you just can't do sword poses sometimes, man. It's insane. Head and face plates like to pop off too easily. You guys know about the arms and shoulder pieces. Those pop off way too much. The range of motion there is almost non-existent. You cannot get those arms up. The hips, like the waist, just pops off like randomly too. And I knew that the skirt piece being a little bit of a harder plastic, I mean it's a softer plastic, but it's still too hard. I knew it was going to be a problem. I didn't know it was this much of a problem too. And it's really actually not the skirt piece that's that much of a problem. There's the crotch pieces that are a hard plastic that you can't even move the leg forward even if you mod this figure around, which you shouldn't have to be modding this figure around to make it better, by the way. If you want to, that's fine. You shouldn't have to. But it's just so bad with the range of motion, the fact that it pops off. And yes, you can pop it back in, but some people have been breaking on them in certain areas too. And this is just such a bad quality figure in terms of a lot of the engineering. There's some parts of it that are really good with the articulation, but other parts that are most of the articulation is really bad, and that is what kills this figure. This needs to be more articulated, and I hope if they make, the East Blue version is going to be better. But it's really, the problems didn't start, don't start with this particular figure. All year, it's been really crazy, and this is the rant section finally here. Trunks, when I reviewed it earlier this year, not a god-awful figure, but it had lots of problems with the loose abs, and the hips were also pretty loose, and the arms were just popping off way too much when you wanted to do different sword poses. It just popped off way too much. Yes, you can pop them back in, and maybe when the new release comes out, I actually don't know if it's out yet, but it's basically getting a reissue, and I don't know if they're going to address those problems. I kind of doubt it. Kid Naruto, at first I was digging it, and then as time went on, I was so disappointed. I really do not like this figure, actually. It has one of the worst leg systems I've ever seen, where you have a metal screw going into plastic for the thigh rotation, and when you eventually rotate it in a certain way, it will come unlocked, and when you try to screw the leg back in, it's done. You strip the plastic, excuse me. Also, the finish on that figure is kind of not great, and it had a couple of other tight joints in some areas. It's like a lot of the Vietnam figures just have a lot of tight joints this year. Sasuke, it was not too bad, honestly. A lot of great going on there, but some of the engineering with these figures is just kind of messy to where, you don't get the best out of the figure with that like you want. It's mostly the abs with this particular, Sasuke here. The rest of it was pretty nice, but the ab articulation really brought it down. Now, Power, I actually like this figure, but she looks way too glossy and way too yellowish to where she almost looks like a bootleg. Like with a lot of these other Vietnam factory figures too, and maybe some of the China stuff. If I can't think off the top of my head right now. But the shoulders on my particular figure were way too tight to where it was about to break as well. I put some shock oil in there, and it fixed that. But some people have broken theirs, so where it's not great. And the legs were loose on my particular power. Luffy, I think this figure's a little overhated to where, it's a cheaper figure and it looks nice for the price you're paying, but I will say the leg articulation is 100% unacceptable to where you just can't bend the knee in a 90 degree angle. It's really bad. So yeah, they really messed up on that, and I'm hoping that somehow they fix it for the East Blue version. Gabimaru is really nice, but my particular figure had pretty bad paint QC. Hard plastic chest piece rubbing into the soft plastic stomach piece is also not great. It causes a lot of scuffing, and there are inconsistent colors in that particular outfit. And Sagiri, that figure had a really nice sculpt, but the finish on that figure with the plastic kind of similar to like Power and Gabimaru, it was not great. It was too glossy. The neck was way too loose to where it was basically a QC issue, and the upper thigh articulation is god awful on that figure. Last but certainly not least, one of my most disappointing figures of the year, just telling you guys right now, next to this Zoro here, which, my expectations for Zoro are low. My expectations for Guts were really high. That's why I was so disappointed here. I have to say, Guts is one of the most well-sculpted and well-painted figures I have ever owned in my collection. And it's, Tamashii Nations and figure-wise, just across the board with different companies, one of the best ones I've seen. It also has some of the worst quality and engineering, unfortunately, I've ever witnessed on a figure. The crotch section on my figure completely broke and was not easily fixable. I could glue it, yes, but there were armored pieces in there that got in the way to where they're just going to stay loose, and they're just not going to go back in place. So it really wasn't that easy of a fix. The right hands were way too tight, and I understand why they made it tight, so that way, the friction can keep him, with the sword. His sword is heavy, so he can, that friction will cause him to have a tighter grip on the sword. But once you get the hands in there, it's just a loose fit anyway. He can't even pull the sword that well. You really need help with, a stand with that figure to do his sword poses. It's kind of insane. I've seen people do it without it online, of course, so, maybe that's just me, but it's so bizarre that those hands were way too tight. People's neck pieces where, the cape hooks into the neck, and then you cover that, the cover breaks. It has been breaking on a lot of people's figures, which is insane to me. That didn't happen with mine, but it's across the board on a lot of people's on Instagram. Also, the crossbow pouch has been breaking for almost everyone I've been seeing. Taking a look at this figure, it's really bad, the way that they did that plastic. People's feet keep breaking. The armor keeps getting in the way of the articulation, which, yes, we knew that was kind of going to be that way, but I figured maybe they could do a way to where he still gets a pretty good range of motion. It's not the least articulated figure in the world, of course, but yeah, it's just the articulation should be better, and the proportions are a little bit off. Now, I don't think that the proportions are too bad. I think his arm's a little too long and his feet are too small, but some people definitely have a problem with that. So, yeah, that particular figure, Guts, really highlighted just how bad the quality was with Tamashii Nations releases this year. Not every single figure is bad, of course, but this is Tamashii Nations' year of quantity over quality. They were pumping out way too much stuff, which I appreciate them pumping out stuff that we've been needing for a long time. We needed One Piece figures. We needed certain Naruto characters. We needed Bleach figures and all that. It's, very cool stuff that they were doing. Unfortunately, they were just doing way too much, and the quality just was not stacking up. I would love if they just shortened the amount of releases that they make every year, or every month, I should say, and that way, like 2 figures a month, and like split up with the different franchises. And they have like 14 to 15 different Shonen Jump franchises they're working right now. That's Figuarts. So they're making a lot of stuff. I will gladly wait a year and a half for the next Jujutsu Kaisen figure if that means the quality is going to be that good. I don't see them really getting much better. They're continuing to work on more stuff. They keep asking what we want to see from them. And I don't think... while I love that they're going to be making different stuff like Demon Slayer, Yu, Hakusho, and all that, I'm just so afraid that the quality is just not going to stack up. This figure and Guts here, they just kind of, highlight that problem. So yeah, Zoro's not great. a lot of stuff going on with Tamashii Nations this year I was not super happy about, and I wanted to end it this video here with that rant section. So this rant made this video, longer, and now I'm getting to the point where I have no idea what I'm talking about because I've been talking for too long. So that's where I'm going to end it. I really don't think you should get this figure. Thanks for watching. See you guys later.